The Hirogen, once considered the galaxy's apex predators, now lay extinct at humanity's feet. For centuries, these fearsome aliens had hunted and subjugated countless species across the stars. Their reign of terror ended abruptly when humanity, newcomers to interstellar travel, systematically eradicated the entire Hirogen population. 5 years after this unprecedented genocide, Caleb Allen stood atop a ridge overlooking the abandoned Hirogen capital. The decorated human military officer surveyed the alien cityscape, its towering structures a testament to the fallen empire. Caleb's mission: oversee the colonization of the former Hirogen homeworld by Earth forces. As he descended into the silent streets, Caleb's enhanced senses remained on high alert. The eerie quiet of the once bustling metropolis set his nerves on edge. He moved cautiously, weapon at the ready, as he inspected the alien architecture for signs of any remaining threats. In the central district, Caleb's vigilance paid off. A stasis pod, hidden within the ruins of what appeared to be a government building, suddenly hissed open. A young Hirogen male, eyes wild with rage and fear, lunged at Caleb with primal ferocity. Caleb's advanced human reflexes and technology proved superior. With a swift movement, he sidestepped the attack and activated his neural disruptor. The Hirogen collapsed, incapacitated but alive. Standing over his fallen foe, Caleb made a decision that would alter the course of human-Hirogen relations. Instead of executing the alien, he chose to take him prisoner. The potential intelligence value outweighed the risk. Securing the unconscious Hirogen, Caleb activated his comlink. "Command, this is Captain Allen. I've captured a live Hirogen, requesting immediate extraction and containment protocols." At the base perimeter, Caleb was met with a mix of shock, fear, and curiosity from his fellow colonists. Many reached for their weapons, eyes fixed on the alien in Caleb's custody. Colonel Reeves, Caleb's commanding officer, strode forward, face set in grim determination. "Secure that thing in high-security containment immediately," Reeves ordered, his voice tight with barely contained alarm. As Caleb processed the Hirogen, who he learned was called Varus, for detainment, he noticed unusual markings on the alien's skin. These weren't typical Hirogen tattoos or battle scars. They appeared to be some form of biotech implants, suggesting Varus might be more than a simple survivor. Suspicion gnawed at Caleb. Could Varus be part of a secret Hirogen resistance movement? The implications were staggering. If true, it meant the human victory might not be as complete as they had believed. Night fell on the alien world, bringing with it a storm of controversy. Many colonists, driven by fear and bitter memories of Hirogen atrocities, demanded Varus's immediate execution. They argued that his very existence posed a threat, potentially signaling other hidden Hirogen to attack. As tensions reached a boiling point, Caleb's secure comm unit chirped with an encrypted message from Earth High Command. The contents sent a chill down his spine. Varus's capture had triggered a fail-safe protocol within dormant Hirogen technology scattered across the planet. The human colonists, so confident in their dominance, now faced an invisible threat. The very ground beneath their feet could turn against them at any moment, transformed into weapons by ancient Hirogen safeguards. Time was running out. Caleb realized he held the key to preventing a catastrophic Hirogen counterattack in the form of the prisoner under his guard. He had to find a way to extract critical information from Varus, and fast. As Caleb prepared to interrogate the last known Hirogen in existence, he felt the weight of his species' future pressing down upon him. Humanity had proven itself the galaxy's new apex predator by destroying the Hirogen. Now they had to prove they deserved that title by outsmarting their fallen enemy one last time. The hunt was on, but this time, humans were both the predators and the prey. As the first rays of dawn painted the alien sky, Caleb Allen's comm unit crackled to life. He issued rapid-fire orders, his voice steady despite the urgency of the situation. "Initiate Protocol Omega, full lockdown of all settlement areas. I want every inch of this colony secured within the hour." Caleb watched as the human outpost transformed into a fortress. Blast doors slammed shut, energy shields flickered to life, and armed patrols fanned out across the perimeter. He turned his attention to the next critical task. Lambda Squad, you're on search and disable. Find any dormant hydrogen tech and neutralize it. Move fast, but stay alert. We don't know what we're dealing with. With the colony as secure as possible, Caleb strode purposefully towards the high-security containment area. The unconscious Hirogen, Varys, had been his prisoner for less than a day, but now he held the key to humanity's survival on this world. You're going to tell me everything you know about this fail-safe protocol, Caleb said, his tone leaving no room for argument. How do we stop it? Varys met Caleb's gaze, his expression shifting from defiance to resignation. You humans, always so quick to assume the worst, he said, his voice a low rumble. The fail-safe isn't what you think. Over the next hour, Varys revealed a truth that shook Caleb to his core. The Hirogen before him wasn't just a survivor. He was a member of a secret resistance group called the Shadowhunters. Young Hirogen who had sought to change their society from within, rejecting the brutal hunting practices that had defined their species for millennia. The fail-safe was our last hope, Varys explained, his eyes distant with memory. A way to protect our people, our knowledge, not a weapon of destruction. Caleb's mind raced. Everything he thought he knew about the Hirogen, the justification for their eradication, was being called into question. He made a split-second decision that could alter the course of human-Hirogen relations forever. You're coming with me, Caleb said, deactivating the cell's energy field. We're going to shut this thing down together. As they exited the containment area, alarms blared throughout the colony. The fail-safe protocol was accelerating, time slipping away like sand through an hourglass. Caleb and Varys moved swiftly through the streets, an unlikely alliance born of desperation. Their progress was halted by a group of heavily armed colonists, led by a muscular man with a face etched in lines of hatred. Sergeant Marcus Holt leveled his weapon at Varys, his finger twitching on the trigger. "Step aside, Captain," Holt snarled. "That thing dies here and now." The tension crackled like electricity in the air. Holt's eyes darted between Caleb and Varys, weighing his options. With a sudden burst of movement, he lunged for the Hirogen. Caleb reacted instantly, years of combat training kicking in. He deflected Holt's weapon and executed a precise takedown, disarming the sergeant in one fluid motion. The other colonists stepped back, weapons lowered in shock at seeing their captain side with an alien over one of their own. "Anyone else want to disobey orders?" Caleb asked, his voice dangerously calm. The colonists shook their heads, backing away. As the standoff dissipated, a new voice cut through the chaos. "Captain Allen, I can help!" Dr. Alara Venn jogged towards them, her lab coat flapping behind her. The xenobiologist's eyes were alight with scientific curiosity as she took in the sight of Varys. "I've been studying Hirogen biology," she explained breathlessly. "If we're dealing with their technology, my expertise could be crucial." Caleb nodded sharply. "You're with us, Doctor. Let's move." The unlikely trio, human soldier, Hirogen rebel, and xenobiologist, raced against time as tremors began to shake the ground beneath their feet. They navigated the ruins of the Hirogen capital, following Varys' lead to the hidden entrance of an underground complex. As they descended into the facility, Caleb's enhanced vision adjusted to the dim lighting. What he saw took his breath away. The cavernous space was filled with technology far beyond anything humans had encountered in their battles with the Hirogen. "Impossible," Caleb muttered, taking in the sight of sleek ships and weapons that put Earth's most advanced tech to shame. Varys' expression was grim. "This is why the failsafe exists, to protect this knowledge from those who would misuse it." Caleb examined the display Dr. Venn indicated. His blood ran cold as he deciphered its meaning. Early diplomatic overtures from the Shadowhunters to humanity, intercepted and destroyed by the aggressive Hirogen leadership. "We never knew," Caleb said, his voice hollow. "All this time we thought—" His words were cut short by a violent tremor that shook the entire facility. Dust rained down from the ceiling as the fail-safe protocol entered its final stage. "We're running out of time," Varys growled. "The control room is just ahead." "Captain Allen, this is Colonel Reeves. We're initiating orbital bombardment in 10 minutes. Get your team out of there now." Caleb's fists tight. The stakes had just gotten higher. Not only did they need to stop the failsafe, but they had to prevent their own people from obliterating everything. The control room door loomed before them, a massive barrier of alien metal. As Varys worked to bypass the lock, a low rumble echoed through the complex, the sound of massive machinery coming to life after centuries of dormancy. War machines, Varys explained, his hands flying over the control panel. The failsafe's last line of defense. The door slid open with a hiss, revealing a chamber filled with pulsing lights and holographic displays. At its center stood a pillar of swirling energy, the heart of the failsafe protocol. As they rushed towards the central console, a new sound stopped them in their tracks. The hiss of stasis pods opening, followed by the guttural snarls of awakened Hirogen warriors. In that moment, Caleb faced an impossible choice. The Hirogen he had sworn to eradicate were bearing down on him and his allies. The failsafe had to be stopped. His own people were moments away from reducing the planet to ash. As the first Hirogen warrior lunged forward, Caleb's finger tightened on the trigger. The future of two species hung in the balance, and every second counted. Counted felt like an eternity. Caleb's mind raced, analyzing the situation with lightning speed. The awakened Hirogen warriors, muscles tensed and eyes gleaming with predatory focus, filled the air with guttural snarls. In that split second, Caleb made his choice. He fired a rapid burst from his plasma rifle, not at the Hirogen, but at the ceiling above them. Chunks of alien metal rained down, temporarily disorienting the warriors and creating a much-needed barrier. "Varys, the consul! Dr. Venn, cover him!" Caleb barked, his voice cutting through the chaos. As Varys sprinted towards the central control panel, Caleb engaged the first Hirogen to break through the makeshift barricade. The alien was fast, inhumanly so, but Caleb's augmented reflexes allowed him to dodge the first swipe of wickedly sharp claws. Caleb countered with a swift uppercut, enhanced strength behind the blow, sending the Hirogen staggering back. He spun, using the momentum to land a devastating kick to another warrior's midsection. Dr. Venn, her eyes wide but hands steady, provided covering fire with a compact energy pistol. Her shots weren't particularly accurate, but they kept the Hirogen from overwhelming Varys as he worked feverishly at the control panel. Caleb grunted in acknowledgement as he grappled with a particularly large Hirogen. The alien's fighting style was different from what he'd encountered before, all raw power and aggression, lacking the finesse he'd seen in Varys. "Focus on stopping the failsafe," Caleb ordered, ducking under a wild swing and retaliating with a series of rapid jabs to the Hirogen's unprotected flank. As the battle raged, Dr. Venn's keen eyes spotted something tucked away in a corner of the control room. "A communication terminal," she exclaimed, her scientific curiosity momentarily overriding the danger of their situation. "Colonel Reeves, do you copy?" Dr. Venn called out, praying the signal would reach the surface. Static crackled, then cleared. "This is Reeves. Who am I speaking to, and how did you access this channel?" Dr. Venn's words tumbled out in a rush. "Sir, this is Dr. Alara Venn. We've discovered a hidden Hirogen facility. The failsafe isn't a weapon. It's protecting invaluable technology and knowledge. You need to halt the orbital bombardment immediately." There was a long pause, filled only by the sounds of combat. "Doctor, do you realize what you're asking?" Reeves' voice was hard, skeptical. "Sir, I understand the implications, but the potential scientific advancements here could revolutionize our understanding of the galaxy. We can't destroy it without—" "Doctor! Dr. Venn, respond!" Reeves' voice crackled through the damaged speaker. Dr. Venn scrambled back to the terminal. "Colonel, we're under attack by awakened Hirogen warriors. Captain Allen is holding them off, but we need more time. Please, sir, delay the bombardment." Relief washed over Dr. Venn, quickly replaced by renewed urgency. She turned back to the heart of the control room, where Caleb was locked in fierce combat with the Hirogen warriors. Caleb's enhanced body was pushed to its limits. He moved with fluid grace, each motion precisely calculated to counter the Hirogen's attacks while conserving energy. But the aliens were relentless, their centuries of slumber having done little to dull their combat instincts. A particularly vicious blow caught Caleb in the ribs, the impact reverberating through his body despite his reinforced skeletal structure. He stumbled back, using the moment to reassess the battlefield. Varys was making progress at the control panel, his fingers flying over the alien interface with practiced ease. But time was running out. Sergeant Holt and his team of extremist colonists poured into the control room, their faces masks of hatred and fear. They opened fire indiscriminately, energy bolts sizzling past both Hirogen and human alike. But the sergeant was beyond reason, his eyes wild with a toxic mix of vengeance and terror. "No more aliens!" he screamed, priming a high-yield explosive. "We end this now!" Time seemed to slow for Caleb. He saw Holt's finger tightening on the detonator, saw the confusion in the eyes of the Hirogen warriors as they tried to process this new threat, saw Dr. Venn working frantically to copy the Hirogen database to a secure human system. In that moment, Caleb made a decision that would alter the course of human and Hirogen history forever. He launched himself at Holt, crossing the distance between them in a heartbeat. His augmented strength allowed him to wrench the detonator from the sergeant's grasp, even as he used his own body to shield the others from potential blast. The control room fell silent, human and Hirogen alike frozen in a tableau of potential violence. Then slowly Holt lowered his weapon. The other colonists followed suit, the fire of their hatred dimmed by confusion and uncertainty. As the immediate threat of destruction passed, a new crisis arose. Caleb's comm unit crackled to life, filling the air with urgent reports from the surface. The deactivation of the failsafe had triggered a planet-wide awakening. Dormant Hirogen facilities were stirring to life, threatening the human colonies scattered across the alien world. With a deep breath, Caleb squared his shoulders and faced the assembled humans and Hirogen. "Listen up," he began, his voice steady despite the weight of responsibility. "We're standing on the precipice of a new era. What happens next will determine the future of both our peoples. We can choose to continue this cycle of violence, or we can take the harder path, the path of understanding and cooperation." He turned to Varys, who had finally managed to fully deactivate the failsafe protocol. "Your people have knowledge that could revolutionize our understanding of the galaxy. We need that knowledge." Finally, Caleb addressed his fellow humans. "We came here as conquerors, believing we were eliminating a threat. But we were wrong. The Hirogen are more than just the hunters we fought. They're a species with a rich culture and invaluable knowledge. Our mission now is to bridge the gap between our peoples, to find a way forward that doesn't end in mutual destruction." As Caleb's words hung in the air, the control room systems suddenly flared to life. Holographic displays flickered into existence, showing the status of Hirogen facilities across the planet. The true scale of the awakening became clear, and with it, the magnitude of the challenge that lay ahead. Caleb knew that the next few hours would be critical. He had to find a way to contain the awakening Hirogen, protect the human colonies, and convince both sides that cooperation was not just possible, but necessary. And he had to do it all while safeguarding the precious knowledge contained within the Hirogen archive. As he began issuing orders, coordinating with both human and Hirogen forces, Caleb couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. The real test of his leadership and of humanity's capacity for growth was yet to come. Caleb's mind raced as he surveyed the chaotic scene before him. The control room, once a battlefield, now stood silent as humans and Hirogen alike waited for his next move. He knew that every second counted. "Secure the perimeter," he ordered, his voice cutting through the tension. "Dr. Venn, continue the data transfer. Sergeant Holt, you and your men are relieved of duty. Surrender your weapons immediately." Holt's face contorted with rage, but the fight had gone out of him. One by one, his extremist group laid down their arms, shooting venomous glares at both Caleb and the Hirogen. As his team moved to secure the explosives, Caleb turned his attention to the awakened Hirogen warriors. Their eyes, wild with confusion and aggression, darted between the humans and their surroundings. "Varys," Caleb called, "I need your help. How do we communicate with them?" The shadow hunter stepped forward, his movements careful and deliberate. He spoke in a series of guttural clicks and growls, the Hirogen language harsh to human ears. The warriors' postures shifted, aggression giving way to wary curiosity. Caleb activated his neural interface, allowing the advanced translation software to process Varys's words. "I'm explaining our situation," Varys said, his voice low, telling them of the changes that have occurred while they slept. As Varys continued his explanation, Caleb's comm unit crackled to life. Reports flooded in from across the planet, more Hirogen facilities awakening, human colonies on high alert. The situation was escalating rapidly. "Dr. Venn," Caleb called out, "status on the data transfer?" Ilara's fingers flew across the alien interface, her eyes wide with excitement, despite the dire circumstances. "Nearly complete, Captain. The amount of information here, it's staggering. Medical advancements, energy production, propulsion systems, things we've only dreamed of." Caleb nodded, his mind already formulating a plan. "As soon as it's done, I want you to start analyzing that data. Priority on anything that could help us control this situation." He turned back to the room at large. "Listen up. We're establishing a command center right here. I need communications set up with all human outposts and as many of the awakening Hirogen facilities as possible." As his team sprang into action, Caleb pulled Varys aside. "I need your expertise. These awakening Hirogen, how do we approach them without triggering more violence?" Varys's expression was grave. "It won't be easy. They're from a more aggressive time in our history, but there might be a way." He gestured to the complex's communication array. "If we can broadcast a message to all awakening facilities, explain the situation." "Do it," Caleb ordered without hesitation. "Work with our comms team. I want that message ready as soon as possible." As Varys moved to comply, Caleb's neural interface pinged with a priority message. His blood ran cold as he recognized the sender, Admiral Viktor Volkov. The holographic display sprang to life, revealing the stern visage of Caleb's former commanding officer. Volkov's eyes, hard as steel, bore into Caleb. "Captain Allen, I've just entered orbit with the 7th Fleet. I want a full report on the situation planetside, immediately." Caleb straightened, his mind racing. He knew Volkov's reputation, a hardliner who saw the Hirogen as nothing more than a threat to be eliminated. The wrong word now could undo everything they'd accomplished. "Admiral," Caleb began, choosing his words carefully, "we've discovered a Hirogen facility of immense scientific value. Dr. Venn is currently extracting data that could revolutionize our understanding of—" "Spare me the scientific jargon, Captain," Volkov interrupted. "I'm reading multiple Hirogen energy signatures across the planet. Are we under attack?" Caleb took a deep breath. "Negative, sir. We've encountered previously dormant Hirogen, but we're working to contain the situation without further bloodshed. The technology we've discovered here could be a game-changer for humanity." Volkov's eyes narrowed. "Your job isn't to make peace, Captain. It's to eliminate the Hirogen threat. I'm preparing a full orbital strike. Have your forces ready to—" "Sir, with all due respect," Caleb interjected, his heart pounding, "I strongly advise against that course of action. We have a unique opportunity here. Give me time to—" "You have 6 hours, Captain," Volkov growled. "After that, I'm taking matters into my own hands." The transmission cut off abruptly. Caleb's mind raced. 6 hours to prevent a war, to find a way for humans and Hirogen to coexist. He turned back to the command center, where Dr. Venn was waving him over excitedly. "Captain, you need to see this," she said, her eyes shining with discovery. "I've found references in the Hirogen database to another species. They call them the Precursors, an ancient, highly advanced civilization that—" As Dr. Venn continued her explanation, Caleb felt the weight of the galaxy settling on his shoulders. The potential of precursor technology, the threat of Volkov's fleet, the awakening Hirogen across the planet, it all converged into a singular, monumental challenge. "All right," Caleb said, his voice steady despite the turmoil in his mind. "We need to move fast. Dr. Venn, I want you to form a research team. Focus on anything related to these precursors and any technology that could help us in the immediate future." He turned to Varys. "We're forming a joint task force, your people and mine. We need to contain the awakening Hirogen peacefully and begin the search for any precursor artifacts." As Caleb continued issuing orders, coordinating the complex dance of diplomacy, scientific discovery, and military action, a new alert caught his attention. Lieutenant Jace Harper's scout team, sent to investigate a newly activated Hirogen facility, had gone dark. Caleb felt the pressure mounting. With every passing second, the situation grew more complex, the stakes higher. He knew that his next decisions would shape the future of not just this planet, but potentially the entire galaxy. With a deep breath, Caleb squared his shoulders and dove back into the fray. The clock was ticking, and the real work had only just begun. Caleb's neural interface chirped with an urgent alert. Lieutenant Jace Harper's scout team had gone silent. He frowned, the weight of this new complication settling heavily on his already burdened shoulders. Exactly, Caleb nodded. I'm forming a rescue team. You're with me. Caleb absorbed the information, his mind racing. Keep digging, Doctor. We'll need every advantage we can get. Minutes later, Caleb led a mixed team of humans and Hirogen towards the newly activated facility. The unlikely allies moved in tense silence, weapons at the ready. As they approached, Caleb noted the facility's unusual architecture, sleeker and more advanced than other Hirogen structures they'd encountered. Stay sharp, he warned as they entered. The interior was a maze of twisting corridors, the walls bearing scorch marks from both human and Hirogen weapons. The air crackled with an unseen energy that set Caleb's nerves on edge. Suddenly, a group of Hirogen warriors burst from a side passage, their eyes wild with confusion and rage. Before Caleb could react, Varys stepped forward, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. He spoke rapidly in the Hirogen language, his tone urgent but calm. Caleb exchanged a glance with Varys. "Can you lead us to the center of the facility?" he asked. The Hirogen nodded warily, and the expanded group moved deeper into the complex. As they progressed, Caleb's comm unit crackled to life. "Captain?" Dr. Ven's voice came through, tense with excitement. "We've detected an enormous energy signature at the heart of that facility. It matches patterns we've seen in the precursor data." Caleb's pulse quickened. "Understood, Doctor. We're heading there now." They emerged into a vast chamber dominated by a massive metallic sphere, its surface rippling with pulses of ethereal light. The air hummed with power, setting Caleb's teeth on edge. Several Hirogen lay unconscious near the device, while others paced restlessly, their movements erratic. "By the stars," Varys breathed, his usually stoic demeanor cracking. "What is this thing?" Before Caleb could respond, Dr. Ven's voice cut in. "Captain, our analysis suggests it's some kind of neural interface. Incredibly advanced. It seems to be affecting the Hirogen's brain patterns." "That explains the erratic behavior," Caleb mused. "But what about Harper's team?" As if in answer, a hidden door slid open on the far side of the chamber. A group of Hirogen emerged, supporting the barely conscious forms of Lieutenant Harper and his team. "We found them wandering, lost in visions," one of the Hirogen explained. "We secured them here for their own safety." Caleb moved to check on Harper, relief flooding through him. But the moment was short-lived. A new alert blared through his neural interface, a priority transmission from orbit. Admiral Volkov's holographic form materialized before him, the older man's face a mask of almost unchecked fury. "Captain Allen," he barked, "I've landed with a strike team. Your time is up. I'm taking control of this operation." Caleb's mind raced. "Admiral, wait!" "We need to secure this device," Caleb said urgently. "If Volkov sees it—" The words died in his throat as the chamber doors burst open. Admiral Volkov strode in, flanked by a squad of heavily armed soldiers. His cold eyes swept the room, lingering on the precursor device. "What in God's name is that?" he demanded. "Admiral," Caleb began, stepping forward, "this device is of immense scientific value. We can't risk damaging it. If you'll just let Dr. Ven explain—" "Enough!" Volkov roared. "I've had enough of your excuses, Allen. This ends now." He turned to his men. "Destroy that thing and eliminate all Hirogen presence." "Sir, no!" Caleb moved to block their path. "You don't understand what's at stake here." For a moment, it seemed the two men would come to blows. Then, without warning, The precursor device pulsed with blinding light. A wave of energy swept through the chamber, and Caleb felt his consciousness slip away. He awoke to find the chamber in chaos. Humans and Hirogen lay unconscious on the floor. Only he and Varys remained standing, seemingly unaffected by the pulse. "I don't know," Caleb replied, moving to check on the nearest fallen soldier. "But we need to shut that thing down before it does any more damage." Working together, they managed to partially deactivate the device, its pulsing light dimming to a faint glow. As they worked, the others began to stir. Admiral Volkov was the first to his feet, his face ashen. What was that?" he asked, his usual bravado gone. Before Caleb could answer, a new alert blared through every active comm unit in the chamber. Dr. Ven's voice, tight with urgency, filled the air. "Captain, we're detecting multiple unknown vessels entering the system. Their design, it matches nothing in our databases, but there are similarities to the precursor technology we've been studying." Caleb's blood ran cold. He turned to Varys, seeing his own fear reflected in the Hirogen's eyes. Whatever was coming, it was clear that the conflict between humans and Hirogen was no longer the greatest threat they faced. "Admiral," Caleb said, turning to Volkov, "we need to put aside our differences. There's something much bigger at stake here." As if to emphasize his point, the precursor device pulsed once more, projecting a holographic star map. A fleet of unknown ships, their designs both beautiful and terrifying, appeared at its edge, moving inexorably towards their position. In that moment, standing in the glow of ancient technology, with the promise of an unknown threat looming on the horizon, Caleb knew that everything had changed. The next few hours would determine not just the fate of this planet, but potentially the future of both humanity and the Hirogen in the face of a power they were only beginning to comprehend. The holographic star map flickered, casting an eerie glow across the faces of humans and Hirogen alike. Caleb's mind raced, processing the implications of this new threat. He turned to Admiral Volkov, their earlier animosity forgotten in the face of a greater danger. "Admiral, we need to act fast. Those ships are unlike anything we've ever encountered." Volkov nodded, his usual bravado replaced by fierce dedication. "What's your plan, Captain?" Caleb took a deep breath, formulating a strategy on the fly. "First, we establish a unified command center. We'll need both human and Hirogen expertise to face this threat." He turned to Varys, the Shadow Hunter's eyes gleaming with curiosity. "Varys, I want you and your best hunters to study this device. We need to understand its capabilities and how it might help us." "Understood, Captain." Ven's voice crackled through the comm. "We'll work around the clock." As Volkov began issuing orders to his ships, Lieutenant Harper approached Caleb, still looking shaken from his ordeal. "Captain, there's something you need to know about the facility we investigated." Caleb listened intently as Harper described a hidden underground hangar filled with dormant precursor combat vehicles. His mind raced with possibilities. "Good work, Lieutenant. Those vehicles could be our ace in the hole." He quickly assembled a joint human-Hirogen engineering team, placing them under the command of Chief Engineer Marcus Thorne. "Marcus, I need you to get those vehicles operational and adapted for our use. Work with the Hirogen engineers. Their insights could be crucial." As the command center buzzed with activity, Caleb noticed Sergeant Marcus Holt watching the proceedings with a mix of awe and uncertainty. The sergeant had been vocal in his anti-Hirogen stance, but now he seemed conflicted. "Sergeant," Caleb called, "I need a mixed-species squad to secure the perimeter around this facility. Are you up for it?" As Holt moved to assemble his team, Caleb allowed himself a small smile. It was a start. Hours passed in a flurry of activity. The long-range scanners provided increasingly detailed information about the approaching precursor ships, each report more alarming than the last. Caleb studied the data, his stomach tightening at the sight of weapon systems far beyond their current capabilities. He knew they needed more firepower. Making a decision that could cost him his career, Caleb opened a secure channel to Earth High Command. He laid out the situation in full, no longer downplaying the threats they faced. "We need reinforcements," he concluded. "Without them, we might not be able to hold this system." As he waited for a response, Varys approached, excitement evident in his usually stoic demeanor. "Captain, we've made a breakthrough. The device contains a vast tactical database, including potential weaknesses in precursor defense systems." Varys's mandibles clicked in frustration. "Longer than we have, I fear." Caleb nodded, his mind already formulating a new plan. Do what you can. Every bit of information could save lives. With time running out, Caleb made a bold decision. He ordered the reactivation of the planet's dormant hydrogen defense grid, integrating it with human battle systems. It was a technological challenge unlike any they'd faced before, but human and hydrogen engineers worked side by side, their previous mistrust forgotten in the face of necessity. The battle erupted in space, energy weapons flaring against the backdrop of stars. On the ground, the adapted precursor vehicles rolled out, their mixed human-hydrogen crews working in perfect synchronization. Caleb coordinated the defense, relaying the precious tactical data from the precursor device to the fleet. Each small victory was hard-won, but slowly they began to hold their ground. As precursor ground forces began to land, Sergeant Holt's mixed-species squad proved their worth, working seamlessly to repel the invaders. Caleb watched with pride as humans and hydrogen fought side by side, years of mistrust melting away in the heat of battle. A message from Earth High Command flashed across Caleb's neural interface. Reinforcements were on the way, but wouldn't arrive for several hours. Caleb's eyes sharp. They would have to hold out until then, against impossible odds. He looked around the command center at humans and hydrogen working together, united against a common threat. Whatever the outcome of this battle, Caleb realized, everything had changed. The bonds forged here, in the crucible of conflict, could reshape the future of both their species. As another wave of precursor ships appeared on the long-range scanners, Caleb steeled himself for the fight ahead. The real test was just beginning. "Shields holding at 87%, reported a hydrogen technician, his mandibles clicking with tension. Then, without warning, a massive energy beam lanced out from the lead precursor vessel, cutting through 3 Alliance ships as if they were made of paper. Caleb watched in horror as the ships disintegrated, their crews vaporized in an instant. "Admiral Volkov, pull back to secondary positions," Caleb ordered through the comm. "Their firepower exceeds our projections." Caleb's mind raced. They needed a game-changer, something to level the playing field. His eyes fell on the holographic display of the adapted precursor combat vehicles. "Marcus," he called to Chief Engineer Thorne, "are those vehicles combat-ready?" Thorne nodded, his face streaked with grease and willpower. "As ready as they'll ever be, Captain. We've integrated human and hydrogen tech with the precursor systems. They're unlike anything I've ever seen." Caleb made a snap decision. "Deploy them immediately. Mixed human-hydrogen crews. Let's see how these precursor drones handle a taste of their own medicine." As Thorne relayed the orders, Caleb turned to Sergeant Holt. "Sergeant, I need you to lead a defense of this facility. Take a mixed squad and hold the line. We can't lose this command center." Holt hesitated for a split second, then nodded sharply. "Understood, sir. We'll make those alien bastards regret setting foot on our planet." Outside, the adapted precursor vehicles roared to life, their sleek forms gliding across the battlefield with otherworldly grace. Human and hydrogen operators worked in tandem, their minds linked through neural interfaces to the ancient technology. Caleb allowed himself a small smile, but it was short-lived. A priority alert from Admiral Volkov cut through the momentary elation. "Captain, we've managed to take down 2 of their ships," Volkov reported, his voice strained. "But the cost? We've lost over half the fleet. We can't hold out much longer." As if in answer to his unspoken prayer, Dr. Venn burst into the command center, her eyes wild with excitement. "Captain, we've done it! We've cracked the hydrogen database!" She quickly explained her discovery, a hidden precursor command node, buried deep within the planet, controlling the defense systems that were wreaking havoc on their forces. Caleb's mind whirled with possibilities. If they could reach that node, disable it somehow. "Varys," he called to the Shadow Hunter, "I need you with me. We're going after that command node." As Caleb assembled his strike team, including Lieutenant Harper and a select group of human and Hirogen soldiers, Chief Engineer Thorne approached with news. "Captain, I think I can boost our planetary shields," Thorne explained. "Buy you some time, but I'll need to cannibalize some of our own tech and integrate it with the Hirogen and precursor systems. It's risky, but it might be our only shot." Moments later, Caleb and his team boarded one of the adapted precursor vehicles. As they sped towards the coordinates of the hidden command node, the battle raged around them. Precursor forces seemed to materialize from thin air, their weapons leaving scorch marks on the vehicle's shields. Inside the vehicle, human and Hirogen worked side by side, their earlier mistrust forgotten in the heat of battle. Lieutenant Harper manned the weapon systems, his fingers dancing across alien controls with surprising dexterity. The air filled with the scream of energy weapons as Harper opened fire, the precursor tech cutting through the drones without difficulty. As they neared the coordinates, the terrain became increasingly treacherous. Massive chasms opened in the earth, forcing their pilot, a young Hirogen named Kral, to perform death-defying maneuvers. Finally, they reached their destination, an imposing structure of black metal and pulsing energy, half buried in the side of a mountain. "By the ancestors," Varys breathed, his eyes wide. "I've never seen anything like this." As they approached the facility's entrance, automated defense systems sprang to life. Energy beams lashed out, impacting their shields with bone-jarring force. "Shields at 60% and dropping," Harper reported, his voice tight with strain. Varys leaned forward, his eyes narrowing as he studied the facility's defenses. "There," he said, pointing to a barely visible seam in the structure's armor. "That's our way in, but we'll need to overload the defense grid first." Varys's claws flew across the control panel, inputting a complex series of commands. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a sound like thunder, the facility's defenses went dark. "Now!" Caleb ordered, and Kral gunned the engines, sending their vehicle hurtling towards the narrow opening. They burst into a cavernous chamber, the vehicle's lights illuminating row upon row of ancient machinery. And there, at the far end of the chamber, stood a group of stasis pods, their surfaces frosted over with age. Caleb's breath caught in his throat as he realized what, or rather, who, was inside those pods. Ancient Hirogen, preserved by precursor technology, predating even the oldest known Hirogen civilization. For a moment, he was tempted to investigate further, to possibly awaken these living relics. But a distant explosion reminded him of the battle raging outside, of the countless lives depending on their success. "We press on," Caleb said, his voice heavy with the weight of command. "We can't afford any distractions." As they pushed deeper into the facility, the air grew thick with tension. Every shadow seemed to hide a potential threat, every unfamiliar sound a possible attack. Then, as they entered a vast circular chamber, they saw it, the precursor command node, a towering spire of pulsing energy and intricate circuitry. But before they could approach, the ground shook violently. From a hidden recess in the chamber floor, a massive construct rose, a precursor guardian, its form a nightmarish blend of organic and mechanical components. Caleb's mind raced, assessing their options. They couldn't hope to overpower such a behemoth with brute force. They needed strategy, coordination. He turned to Varys, seeing his own grit mirrored in the Hirogen's eyes. In that moment, a plan formed between them, unspoken but understood. "Harper, cover us!" Caleb shouted as he and Varys burst from the vehicle, moving in perfect synchronization. As they maneuvered, Varys called out weak points in the construct's armor, points that would have been invisible to human eyes. Caleb relayed the information to Harper, who adjusted his aim accordingly. Slowly but surely, they wore the Guardian down. With a final, earth-shaking roar, the massive construct collapsed, its systems overloaded by the combined assault. But their victory was short-lived. As they approached the command node, Caleb's comm crackled to life. Admiral Volkov's voice came through, ragged and desperate. "Captain, we can't hold them much longer. The shields are failing. Whatever you're going to do it now." Caleb and Varys exchanged grim looks. They had reached their goal, but the hardest part was yet to come. As they began the delicate process of deactivating the node, Waves of security drones descended upon their position. Harper and the rest of the team formed a defensive perimeter, their weapons blazing as they held off the relentless assault. But with each passing moment, their situation grew more desperate. Caleb's fingers flew across the node's control panel, following Varys's instructions as they attempted to safely shut down the ancient system. Sweat beaded on his brow as he realized the true complexity of their task. The node was tied directly into the planet's core. One wrong move, and they could trigger a catastrophic event that would destroy everything they were fighting to protect. As alarms blared and energy arced across the chamber, Caleb knew they were rapidly running out of time. The fate of two civilizations hung in the balance, dependent on their ability to unravel the mysteries of a technology beyond their comprehension. With the sound of battle ringing in his ears and the weight of countless lives on his shoulders, Caleb took a deep breath and prepared to make the most crucial decision of his life. Caleb's fingers hovered over the final command sequence. He locked eyes with Varys, a silent understanding passing between them. With a deep breath, Caleb initiated the shutdown procedure. The chamber filled with an otherworldly hum as energy coursed through the ancient machinery. Caleb and Varys watched intently as status indicators flickered across the holographic display, their hearts pounding in unison with the pulsing energy. Suddenly, Harper's voice cut through their concentration. "Sir, we're running out of time. The drones are overrunning our position." Caleb glanced over his shoulder, taking in the chaotic scene. Harper and the team were engaged in fierce close-quarters combat, their depleted weapons now serving as makeshift clubs. The air crackled with energy discharges as more security drones poured into the chamber. The Hirogen nodded grimly. "I'll do what I can." He moved to join the defense team, his powerful frame easily lifting a fallen piece of machinery to create a barricade. As Caleb worked, his comm unit crackled to life. Admiral Volkov's voice came through, strained and desperate. "Captain, we're out of options. The precursor ships are combining into some kind of superweapon. We're moving to intercept, but this is likely our last stand." Then, as if sensing his struggle, Varys called out from his position at the barricade. "Captain, the energy fluctuations, they follow a pattern similar to our ancestral hunting rhythms." Caleb's eyes widened as he processed this information. He studied the pulsing energy flows, recognizing the subtle patterns Varys had identified. With this new insight, he began to unravel the precursor logic, matching the shutdown sequence to the ebb and flow of the energy currents. As Caleb neared the final stages of the deactivation, the facility's systems suddenly sprung to life. Holographic displays materialized around them, filling the air with ghostly light. A figure appeared, unmistakably precursor in origin, its form both familiar and alien. The hologram spoke, its voice resonating with an otherworldly timbre. "Guardians of this world, heed our warning. The defenses you seek to deactivate were created to protect against a threat beyond your comprehension. The true enemy still lurks in the dark between stars." Caleb exchanged a look with Varys, both of them processing the implications of this message. The sounds of battle faded into the background as they grappled with this new information. Making a split-second decision, Caleb turned to Varys. "Download everything you can from their systems. We need to understand what we're dealing with." Varys nodded, moving swiftly to an adjacent console. His claws flew across the alien interface, copying vast amounts of data even as Caleb prepared to execute the final shutdown command. With a deep breath, Caleb activated the sequence. The chamber filled with a deafening hum as the command node's energy began to dissipate. The security drones attacking their position suddenly went limp, clattering to the ground like discarded toys. For a moment, an eerie silence fell over the facility. Then Caleb's comm unit erupted with a cacophony of voices. "The precursor ships, they're powering down. Ground forces are deactivating across all sectors. Captain, this is Admiral Volkov. Whatever you did down there, it worked. The planet killer weapon is breaking apart." Relief washed over Caleb, but it was short-lived. As the adrenaline of battle faded, the weight of their discovery settled in. They had averted one crisis, only to uncover the specter of an even greater threat. Caleb nodded grimly. "We need to get this information back to command immediately. There's no telling what we've set in motion here. As they prepared to leave the facility, the distant sound of ships entering the atmosphere reached them. Caleb's comm unit chimed with an incoming transmission. "This is Fleet Admiral Helena Sharp of Earth Command. We're detecting widespread precursor deactivation. Captain Caleb, what in God's name happened down there?" As they emerged from the ancient facility into the harsh light of day, Caleb saw Earth reinforcement ships descending from the sky. The immediate threat had passed, but the real challenge was just beginning. With the weight of newfound knowledge in the eyes of two species upon him, Caleb steeled himself for the difficult conversations ahead. The alliance between humans and Hirogen, forged in the heat of battle, would face its true test in the coming days. As Caleb prepared to brief Admiral Sharp, he couldn't shake the feeling that their victory had opened the door to something far larger and far more dangerous than they could have ever imagined. As the Earth reinforcement ships touched down, kicking up swirls of dust and debris, Caleb and his team emerged from the ancient facility. The harsh sunlight made them squint after the dim interior of the precursor structure. They watched as a sleek command shuttle landed nearby, its hatch opening to reveal a stern-faced woman in an immaculate Fleet Admiral uniform. "Fleet Admiral Helena Sharp," Caleb muttered to Varys. "This should be interesting." "Captain Allen," she said, her voice clipped and authoritative, "I want a full report on what happened here, and I want to know why you're standing next to a Hirogen warrior as if he's part of your crew." Sharp's eyes narrowed, but she nodded curtly. "Very well, my shuttle. Now." Inside the shuttle, Caleb began his report. He detailed the discovery of the precursor facility, the desperate battle against its defenses, and the crucial role the Hirogen played in their victory. As he spoke, he could see Admiral Sharp's expression, shifting from skepticism to grudging respect. The Hirogen warrior met her stare unflinchingly. "Admiral, our peoples have been enemies for too long, but we now face a threat that dwarfs our past conflicts. The precursors left us a warning, a danger that threatens us all." Sharp leaned back in her seat, processing the information. After a long moment, she spoke. "I'm ordering a full investigation of the facility. Captain Allen, I want you to oversee a joint human Hirogen research team. We need to know exactly what we're dealing with." Caleb nodded. "I recommend Dr. Alara Venn to lead the human side of the research team. She's brilliant, adaptable, and open-minded. Exactly what we need for this kind of unprecedented cooperation." "Agreed," Sharp said. "And for the Hirogen?" "Varys," Caleb said without hesitation. "He's already familiar with the precursor systems, and he's proven his commitment to our alliance." As they exited the shuttle, Caleb could see the activity around the facility ramping up. Human and Hirogen troops were setting up a perimeter, while research teams began to arrive with their equipment. Over the next few days, the joint research effort began in earnest. Dr. Venn and Varys worked tirelessly, poring over the vast amounts of data downloaded from the precursor systems. Caleb split his time between coordinating the research efforts and mediating the inevitable tensions that arose between the two species. One afternoon, as Caleb was reviewing security protocols with Lieutenant Harper, Admiral Volkov approached, his face set in a grim expression. "Captain, a word," Volkov said, gesturing for Caleb to follow him to a quiet corner of the command center. Once they were alone, Volkov spoke in a low, urgent tone. "We need to take control of this technology, Caleb. The Hirogen can't be trusted with this kind of power. We should be focusing on weaponizing these precursor systems, not playing nice with our former enemies." "Admiral, with all due respect, that kind of thinking is what got us into this mess in the first place," Caleb replied, keeping his voice level. "The precursors left this technology to protect against a greater threat. We need to understand it, not weaponize it." Volkov's eyes hardened. "You're being naive, Captain. This is about humanity's survival." Before Caleb could respond, an alarm blared through the facility. Lieutenant Harper's voice came over the comm system, tense and urgent. "Captain Allen to the research lab immediately. We have a situation." Caleb sprinted towards the lab, his heart pounding. As he burst through the doors, he saw Dr. Venn and Varys huddled around a holographic display, their faces pale. "What's going on?" Caleb demanded. Varys growled low in his throat. And that's not all. The data suggests that the threat the precursors were preparing for, it's still out there, waiting. As the implications of their discovery sank in, Caleb's comm unit crackled to life. Lieutenant Harper's voice came through, strained and urgent. Captain, we have a security breach. Armed humans are attempting to seize control of the facility. They're led by Colonel Jeremiah Frost. Harper, mobilize our security forces, Caleb ordered. Mix human and Hirogen teams. We need to show a united front. As alarms blared throughout the facility, Caleb turned to Ven and Varys. Secure that data. It cannot fall into the wrong hands. With a nod to Varys, Caleb sprinted out of the lab. The sounds of combat echoed through the corridors. Energy weapons discharging. The clash of hand-to-hand combat. Rounding a corner, Caleb came face to face with a group of Frost soldiers. Without hesitation, he dove into action, his body moving with a fluid grace born from both his human training and the lessons learned from the Hirogen. As he fought, Caleb could see human and Hirogen warriors working in tandem, covering each other's blind spots, their former enmity forgotten in the heat of battle. It was a sight that filled him with both pride and hope. The fighting intensified as they pushed towards the heart of the facility. Caleb knew that Frost would be heading for the central command node, seeking to seize control of the precursor systems. As they neared the central chamber, Caleb's comm unit crackled once more. Admiral Sharp's voice came through, clear and resolute. Captain Allen, I'm authorizing you to take whatever measures necessary to secure the facility. The future of both our species depends on it. Caleb acknowledged the order, an iron will settling over him. As they breached the final security door, he saw Colonel Frost standing before the precursor command node, a manic gleam in his eyes. It's over, Frost, Caleb called out, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. Stand down. Frost turned, his face contorted with rage and hatred. You're a traitor to your species, Allen. This power belongs to humanity alone. As Frost raised his weapon, Caleb knew that the real battle, not just for control of the facility, but for the future of human-Hirogen relations, was about to begin. Begin! As Frost's finger tightened on the trigger, a blur of motion caught Caleb's eye. Varys, moving with inhuman speed, tackled the colonel from behind. The weapon discharged, its energy blast scorching the wall mere inches from Caleb's head. In the chaos that followed, Caleb and his team subdued Frost and his remaining loyalists. The facility was secured, but the aftermath of the coup attempt left a palpable tension in the air. Months passed as the dust settled. The human-Hirogen alliance, once a fragile construct born of necessity, had been tested in fire and emerged stronger. Caleb found himself at the center of it all, working tirelessly to bridge the gap between the two species. On a crisp morning, Caleb stood before a gathering of human and Hirogen leaders. Admiral Sharp nodded to him, and he took a deep breath before addressing the assembly. We've made remarkable progress in deciphering the precursor data, Caleb began, and now we're ready for the next step. We've located what we believe to be another precursor installation. I'm proposing a joint expedition to investigate it. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Varys, standing at Caleb's side, spoke up. This mission will require the best of both our peoples. The location is treacherous, hidden within an unstable nebula. We'll face unknown dangers, but the potential rewards are immeasurable. After hours of debate and planning, the expedition was approved. Caleb assembled his team, a mix of seasoned human soldiers, shadow hunter Hirogen, and scientific experts from both species. Dr. Alara Ven would lead the research efforts, her brilliant mind key to unraveling the precursor mysteries. As they prepared to embark, Caleb found Varys in the ship's armory, meticulously checking his equipment. Varys looked up, his alien features set in a determined expression. We were born ready, my friend. Our peoples have hunted each other for generations. Now we hunt together. The journey across the galaxy was long and fraught with challenges. Navigating the treacherous currents of uncharted space tested both human and Hirogen technology to its limits. But as they neared their destination, a sense of anticipation built among the crew. Approaching target coordinates, Lieutenant Harper announced from her station on the bridge. Sensors are having trouble penetrating the nebula's interference. As they penetrated deeper into the swirling gases of the nebula, a massive shape began to take form on their view screens. A space station of impossible size and complexity hung suspended in the void, its architecture a blend of organic curves and sharp crystalline angles. "By the ancestors," Varys breathed, "it's beautiful." Docking with the station proved to be a nerve-wracking experience. The nebula's energies played havoc with their systems, requiring split-second adjustments and perfect coordination between human and Hirogen crew members. As the airlock cycled open, Caleb led the first team onto the station. The interior was a maze of shadowy corridors and vast, echoing chambers. Strange symbols glowed on the walls, pulsing with an inner light. "Dr. Venn," Caleb called out, "what do you make of these markings?" Alara ran her hand just above the surface of the wall, her eyes wide with wonder. "They're similar to what we found in the first facility, but more evolved. It's like the language itself has grown more complex." Their progress through the station was slow and methodical. At every turn, they encountered increasingly sophisticated security measures, energy barriers, gravity traps, and swarms of nanoscopic drones that seemed to phase in and out of reality. Caleb and Varys found themselves working in perfect tandem, their complementary skills allowing them to overcome obstacles that would have stymied either species alone. Human ingenuity combined with Hirogen instinct and physical prowess to create an unstoppable team. After what felt like days of exploration, they reached the heart of the station. A massive chamber stretched out before them, easily large enough to house entire cities. At its center stood a structure that defied description, a twisting spire of energy and matter that seemed to bend the very fabric of space around it. "This has to be it," Caleb said, his voice hushed with awe. "The precursor superweapon." Dr. Venn approached a nearby console, her fingers dancing over the alien interface. "I'm interfacing with the station's systems now. Just give me a moment to—" "Wait, this can't be right." Alara's eyes widened as she processed the information flooding her mind. "Captain, this isn't a weapon at all. It's a shield generator, a device capable of protecting entire solar systems." Before Caleb could respond, the chamber erupted with light and sound. Holographic displays sprang to life around them, filling the air with swirling galaxies and incomprehensible equations. A figure materialized in the center of the room, a being of pure energy, its form constantly shifting and changing. When it spoke, the words seemed to bypass their ears entirely, resonating directly in their minds. The holographic displays coalesced, showing a massive dark shape moving through the void between galaxies. It was an entity of impossible size, consuming everything in its path. "We built this network not for destruction, but for protection," the precursor avatar continued. "The devourer approaches. Only united can you hope to stand against it." Alarms blared throughout the station. Varys growled, checking his wrist computer. "Something's entered the outskirts of the Milky Way. It matches the energy signature of that thing." Caleb met Varys's eyes, seeing his own purpose reflected in the Hirogen's gaze. "We don't have a choice. Alara, start the activation sequence." As Dr. Venn worked feverishly at the console, Caleb and Varys positioned themselves at twin control pillars that had risen from the floor. The precursor avatar spoke again, its voice urgent. "The shield requires the synthesis of two distinct consciousnesses. Only through true cooperation can it be activated." Caleb placed his hands on the smooth surface of the pillar, feeling it hum with potential energy. Across from him, Varys did the same. Their eyes met, and in that moment, a lifetime of conflict and mistrust melted away. "As one," Varys replied. They pressed their palms against the pillars, and the world exploded into light. Caleb felt his consciousness expand, merging with Varys's in a union of human and Hirogen minds. Through their shared perception, they saw the shield generator come to life. A pulse of energy radiated outward from the station, expanding at impossible speed. It engulfed solar systems, entire galactic arms, until a shimmering barrier encased a vast swath of the Milky Way. And not a moment too soon. The Devourer, a writhing mass of dark energy, slammed into the shield with apocalyptic force. The impact sent shockwaves rippling through space-time itself. As the Devourer's form dissipated against the impenetrable barrier, Caleb and Varys found themselves back in their bodies, gasping for breath. The chamber around them shuddered, lights flickering ominously. "We need to move," Dr. Venn shouted over the sound of failing systems. "The station's power reserves are critical." They ran through collapsing corridors, the very structure of the station seeming to unravel around them. They reached their ship just as the docking clamps failed, forcing Caleb into a desperate maneuver to clear the disintegrating station. With a final burst from the engines, they emerged from the nebula, watching in awe as the massive precursor installation collapsed in on itself, leaving behind nothing but a fading ripple in the fabric of space. As they set course for Earth, Caleb looked around at his crew, human and Hirogen working side by side, their differences forgotten in the face of shared triumph. He knew that everything had changed. The human-Hirogen alliance was no longer just a necessity, it was the key to their survival. The journey home was filled with a mixture of celebration and anxious planning. They had saved the galaxy, but at what cost? And what new challenges awaited them in this brave new era of cooperation? As Earth grew larger in their view screen, Caleb felt a tug on his arm. Varys stood beside him, his alien features set in an expression Caleb had learned to recognize as a smile. "We did it, my friend," the Hirogen said, "but I suspect our greatest hunts are still to come." Caleb nodded, his mind already racing with the possibilities that lay ahead. The galaxy stretched out before them, vast and full of wonders waiting to be discovered. And for the first time in generations, humans and Hirogen would face those wonders not as enemies, but as allies. Caleb acknowledged the order, then turned to address his crew. As he looked at the faces before him, human and Hirogen alike, he felt a swell of pride and purpose. "You've all performed admirably," he began. "What we've achieved here will reshape the future of both our peoples. But our work is just the beginning. There are more precursor installations out there, more mysteries to unravel. And now we face a threat greater than anything we've encountered before." He paused, letting his words sink in. "We're about to enter a new era of exploration and cooperation. The challenges ahead will test us in ways we can't yet imagine. But if what we've accomplished here is any indication, I have no doubt that together we'll rise to meet them." As the ship began its descent towards Earth, Caleb couldn't help but feel a mix of anticipation and trepidation. They had unlocked secrets beyond imagination, forged an alliance that would change the course of history, and faced down a cosmic horror. But he knew that in many ways their journey was just beginning. The true test of the human-Hirogen alliance lay ahead, and as Earth's surface rushed up to meet them, Caleb steeled himself for the battles yet to come, not with weapons, but with words and ideas. The future of two species now rested on their ability to put aside millennia of conflict and embrace a shared destiny among the stars.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.